Hello!
Hey
everyone!
It's always a gamble.
Wanted to hop on tonight and talk about morning routines. And we've spent like a week writing the most epically long blog post about this because there's apparently just there's much to say. So hopefully we can get through it in a way that makes sense and it's easy to follow. And there's a free download. If you go to our blog, secondstorywindow.net, the very first blog post is about this. And there's a free download that you can print and fill in. I'm accidentally leaning out of the frame.
It's confusing to be like,
I know
that way.
That you can fill in like with these talking points that we're talking about. So let's switch over. Get our slides up. Here we go. Okay, so let's talk about morning routines. And we titled it Setting the Stage for Success because what you do in the morning is so important for the rest of your day.
Everything else you do is determined by what happens in the morning. I'm going to try really hard to stay in the camera frame.
Oh, I forgot about that now that the slides are up.
So yeah, like the start of your day really is the start of your day because it determines kind of how your day unfolds. In the first 20 minutes of your day actually kind of determines how effective the whole day is going to be and how much you'll be able to get done. So it's important to be mindful in how we're shaping our morning. So we're going to walk you through that today and kind of help you why it's important because if you want to get the most out of a school day, it's important to start off on the right note so that you are as effective with the time that you have as you want to be.
Right.
And I love this. I found this quote from Sun Tzu about all battles are won before they're fought. So what am I trying to say? The whole day is going to revolve around a plan that you make if you want it to be a successful
you're planning
outcome.
ahead for success.
Yeah. So before the students even come, you need to have an idea of what they're going to be doing. You need to have your plan of what's going to happen in your day.
Because think of everything you have to do in the first 30 minutes of your day. I mean, you've got lunch count, attendance,
turning in homework,
yes,
answering parent notes, hearing all the little stories about what happened from the children over the night, you know?
Yeah, and then getting them started on some meaningful activity. I mean, it's a lot to do in the first 30 minutes of the day.
And you need it in 50 places at once. But the important thing to remember as we go through this, there's no right way to start your day because there's no two classrooms that are identical. There's no two school settings that are identical. So really what your morning looks like is going to have to be tailored to what your situation is.
And we're going to talk a lot about Heidi's morning routine because she taught for more years than I did and she kind of tweaked and changed her routine. But mine looked a little different than this. So a lot of the components were the same, but that's just important to remember that even between the two of us, it doesn't look the same and it's not going to look the same for you.
But regardless of the situation of your classroom, the golden rule that applies to every teacher and every school in every country is that don't let this busy time become wasted time. It's so easy to just get bogged down by all your teaching tasks.
Yeah, we got to do all this stuff, and we'll get started in a minute. But if you plan ahead, that time can actually be really useful time while you do all of those clerical tasks.
Yes. So in the book, The First Days of School, which if you've seen any of our other...
We talk a lot about it.
Back to school videos, yes. You've heard us talk about this because it's just got so many good practical ideas. But in the book, Harry Wong cites a study that outlines 4 characteristics of effective management. And the first thing is that students know what's expected of them. Second, there's little wasted time, confusion, or disruption.
And students are engaged in meaningful instructional activities. And the classroom climate is work-oriented but relaxed and pleasant. And we're going to talk about these throughout the discussion today.
So regardless of what you're doing in your day, those 4 components should be present. If you're teaching a lesson, or, whatever you're doing. But they definitely should be present in your morning routine because those 4 characteristics are going to set you up for the successful school day.
Yes, so we have a free morning routine planning guide that's up on our blog. If you go to secondstorywindow.net and click on the morning routines post right at the top, you can click download and get this free planning guide. And we're going to go over how you can look at your morning routine and the things that you need to do and set up your own morning routine that's right for you.
Something tailor-made exactly for your situation.
Right. And sometimes it feels like, well, I know I need to do these things, but I don't know the best way to do them. So that's what we're going to help you do, is think through all the things you need to think through and plan it out the way you want it to be. So the first thing is you're going to list your morning tasks, and you'll see there's a column for the tasks that you need to complete and a column for the tasks that your students need to complete when they come in the morning.
And so you start by just listing everything that needs to go on right there.
Right. And if school hasn't started yet, imagine yourself as one of your students. Put yourself in their shoes as they walk in the door first thing in the morning and think through everything you need them to do and write that on the student task list. And if school's already started, tomorrow, sit back and make a list of everything they're doing when they arrive so that you can have a clear idea of what you need to work into your routine.
And include in your list everything, like even the minor things like getting a chair or filling a water bottle. Every minor step.
Yes, explicit as possible.
Yeah. And then step 2 is to analyze your tasks. So we took those 4 components that we mentioned earlier, and we have this kind of little graphic organizer. So you can take those tasks and organize them according to
those 4 principles of classroom management that we want to see
present in our morning routine.
We'll just finish each other's sentences and we'll get there eventually.
But there are no police that are going to come check that you've sorted these the right way.
Because a lot of these could fit in multiple, and you can write them in multiple, or just pick the one you think it goes in. It really doesn't matter that much.
So if I have, the first thing my kids do is mark the attendance chart, which also serves as lunch count. I might put that as students know what to do because it's a student task. I might put it under minimizes disruption and confusion because it helps the class flow smoothly.
Right.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. The idea is mostly to fill it in so you can see if there's any gaps, which is what you're going to look at next, is look at those routines and what you've written down, and then you're going to look for areas for growth.
So if you're looking and you're like, oh, I don't really have anything in there about, focused, pleasant climate, or I know that we could do better on not wasting time, things like that. You can take those, think through exactly what your ideal morning would look like, and then think about what you want to add, and add them on. We have a separate sheet so you can record ideas on there as well.
So your ideas that you might want to add. So some suggestions of things you might want to think through in each of these areas. We've kind of got a long list on the post, but we'll give you a few ideas here so students know what's expected of them. Some ideas might be,
do you have a clear idea of exactly what you want your students to actually be doing? That's a huge start. Do they know what to do as soon as they come in the room? Do they know how to come into the room? Mm-hmm. Do they know where all their stuff goes? And just really thinking through, how clear have your expectations been made?
And then little wasted time, confusion, or disruption.
So do you organize for efficiency? Is there a place for everything to go if you want them to turn in their homework? Is there a place for them to turn in their homework? If you're probably going to have parent notes or lunch money coming in, do they know where to do that? Is there a place for that? You have to just really get really into the nitty gritty and thinking through everything that's your students are going to have to do. Mm-hmm. And then we want, number 3 is our students are engaged in meaningful instructional activities. So what are you having your students do? You need to have something that they can do independently, ideally a simple task that's not going to take a lot of upkeep from you because you have a lot to be doing during this time.
Ideally not something that you're gonna have to switch out every day or things
or
like that.
Explain every day.
Oh yeah,
something
definitely don't want
that's
that.
routine enough that the kids can just work on it independently, but isn't just fluffy filler.
Yeah, that like we said, we don't want this busy time to be wasted time. And then last, the classroom climate is work oriented but relaxed and pleasant.
So things like, do you play music when the kids come in? How do you greet them? Are you doing a morning meeting or a morning message? Things to foster community and individuality and there's really a lot on the blog post.
Right.
And then after you've thought through your ideal morning and you kind of have those 4 boxes a little more fleshed out, you need to think through, okay, well, what order would these steps be occurring in our classroom? Mm-hmm. And the more you can organize for efficiency, the better everything will run. So in my classroom, they did their lunch count first. So I put that right by the door. I know that's not possible to set up in every classroom, but I had a blank wall
as much as possible.
And then next thing they did was hang up their backpacks and turn in their homework. So I put the homework basket, which was a little inconvenient for me because it's not where I checked the homework, but I put it by their backpacks because those two things were by each other. So just trying to streamline the process as much as possible.
Yeah,
it's
for you and for them, but as much as you can.
And just remember, this isn't set in stone.
Right.
It's not.
You can change it at any point. If you think you've got this great order in a couple of weeks, you're like, this is not working for us. You can change it however you need to, whenever you need to.
And then after you've got your order worked out and the steps that everyone needs to know, we have the next thing to do is to make that clear to your students and to teach and practice that procedures. And we love to talk about procedures. So.
Yes, we do. We have many a blog post and video about this.
So we use a 3-step lesson plan, and the 3 steps are tell, try, and tally. So you start by explaining the routine, modeling it for your students, give students a chance to try, giving them some feedback so that they're doing it effectively. And then the last thing is the students have to determine how well they've done and any way they need to improve.
Right. Because the best way to teach procedures is to actually teach procedures, like so explicitly. And I think that sometimes that doesn't seem it doesn't seem natural to do it, but you'll be so surprised how effective it is if you just take the time to just explicitly teach all of your procedures and routines.
And sometimes it's hard to feel like I don't want to spend that time, but really you need free time in the morning.
Right, and I cannot believe I didn't put in our classic slide that's in every one of our slideshows about how you need to spend the majority of the first 2 weeks teaching procedures and routines, because do it right or do it all year long. I just couldn't let a back to school video go by where we didn't quote that one.
So I'm going to walk you through a little bit about what my 2nd grade morning routine looked like. And jump in.
Yeah, I'll point out some things that maybe I did that were different. And just keep in mind, this is just what works for her and for me, and it might look totally different for you. So this is just some ideas of how to apply these ideas.
So 8:35, so buses would start arriving. Kids could actually come inside at that point. And then they were allowed they could go eat breakfast, go outside and play, come in and read, draw, or start their morning work.
And at my school, they couldn't come in until the first bell. So unless it was like super cold or rainy outside, they stayed out until the first bell unless they were eating lunch. Eating breakfast. So
there you go. So 8:50 was our first bell. That's probably about the same for you. I think it's a district thing. And then they could come inside. And they would start, putting stuff away and getting their morning workout.
What they're doing at that time.
Then, so they're getting all their morning workout. They're taught to stop for announcements, listen to announcements, do the pledge, all that good stuff. And then I think you skipped
Did I?
Oh.
That's what you had on the blog post.
I apparently need to put another time slot in there. So I didn't really talk. Well, I guess
you mentioned that because we're gonna go into more in depth into what that morning work time looks like. But basically, during that time, they're working on the morning work, and then when they're done from that in Heidi's class, they transition to their first daily 5.
Right. So they would start their morning work as soon as they got in. It was once the bell had rung, and then pause for the announcements, and then keep going. Then at 9:15, if they were done, or if they finished early, they would read silently. They had book tubs at each table. At 9:15, if they were done with their morning work, they could start their first daily 5 station. And obviously that took like a month to get up and running.
Right.
So this wasn't from, the
at the beginning of the year, it doesn't look quite like this.
And then they would leave their morning work on their desks with a little crayon in it and the book closed so neighbors can't cheat. And they would start their first daily 5 station. And we could probably need a whole other video about,
I'm sure we will.
But, I didn't do set rotations.
Yes, Heidi, says totally 5 totally different. Daily 5 totally different. Yeah. But we'll do another video on that.
So they would go to their first daily 5 station. As they finished up, they would go start that. So some kids might only be 10 minutes at that station. Some kids might have the full 20. And then at 9:35, I call them back to correct morning work. But while the kids are doing all of this, I'm off to the side answering parent emails and sending in the lunch count and forgetting to send the attendance until the office called me down. Or we're doing, makeup tests or one-on-one things with students. Just, all that morning.
Yeah, sending the kid with the take-home books down to the library and whoever shop that is.
So at 9:35, we'd correct morning work, and then I made that pretty quick.
Yeah, it is surprisingly fast, especially when you get going on it. I mean, you really only need to stop if you notice a really awesome teachable moment or something you need to, a big confusion you need to address. Otherwise, it's pretty zip bang, boom.
And part of what I would do while the kids were doing daily fives, I'd look at their morning work. So if I noticed, I didn't do this every day, but
on a good day.
Yeah. So if I noticed a problem or a kid hadn't finished and had gone to their station anyway, I could call kids back to look at that over. And then we do morning meeting, end with that, and then we are ready to start Writer's Workshop.
So that's about the first 60 minutes of the day, and a lot has happened in there instead of a half an hour of that being settling in for the day. They got in, they got right to work.
They knew exactly what to do, and they got started.
Right.
So if you notice, the kids know exactly what's expected. I really take the time at the beginning of the year to teach those routines because it was so important to me that we're up and running with minimal confusion.
Right. Because we really need them to be as independent in their morning tasks as soon as possible.
Because my obligations aren't set aside just because the kids aren't independent yet. I still have to do all X, Y, and Z.
Having them independent on their morning routine is probably the most important routine to me of the entire day. Because once that's solid, then I can move on to those other things. But this is the most important one. And it's also why we practice this routine at the afternoon of the first day of school. So that the second day of school, they have an idea of what they're going to be doing when they arrive. Of course, it takes a while to get smooth at this, to really be able to do things. And you're always going to kind of have to be reminding them. But it helps a lot.
So,
the two things that Heidi did to try and make the morning go smoothly
are, I planned ahead, I knew exactly what I wanted the kids to do, and I had organized to make that possible.
Right, tried to make it so that every morning you're not scrambling for whatever their morning activity is going to be.
Which was me the first 2 years of school. It was trying to just copy a random worksheet. Because,
something for them to do when they walk in the door. Which is sort of what led to the morning work being created. It was this idea of, well, I don't want to have to be scrambling for something every morning, and whatever they're doing, I want it to be meaningful. Right. And we'll talk a little more about that. But the second thing she did
is every day in the same place, the assignment's posted on the board, even though it's the same order every day, and only the page number of the morning work's really the only thing that's changing.
And I did the exact same thing as
But it is absolutely on the board so that if they have any questions about what they're supposed to be doing, I just direct them to the board so they learn.
And if you have them, the way that I did it, I think you did too, is I wrote them out on sentence strips that were laminated and put on magnets. So if there were something extra today that I needed to put on there, I could add it into the routine easily. But for the most part, that was up all the time, the same 4 or 5 steps.
My last couple years, I had a projector so I could just do it digitally, which was nice.
My school is not on board with that kind of stuff.
It was 10 years without that. So.
But one added bonus of a really clean routine is that it supports your struggling students.
When they're not having to figure out what they're supposed to be doing and they're not worried about making mistakes, it really frees them up to be able to focus on the things that actually matter, not,
because they're the ones that are most likely going to be easily distracted from chaos. So having everything run as smoothly as possible and eliminate all the millions of questions really helps them succeed. So the second area that's addressed in Heidi's morning routine is that little wasted time, confusion, or disruption.
So I really did try to organize for efficiency so that tasks went together. There was kind of a flow in what they were doing, just to make things as smooth as possible.
Right.
And then I always plan for what's next. I even do this now with preschool. If they're doing a task that has an endpoint, what are they doing after that endpoint? Because if that's not addressed, then you're scrambling to come up with something, or kids are just wasting time and causing trouble.
Right.
So it's just always thinking about, okay, so the kids come in and do their lunch count. Okay, then what are they going to do? Then, okay, they're doing their morning work. What do they do if they finish? Oh, they're going to read. That can go as long as it needs to. I don't have to plan that next step.
Yes, it's good to work those sort of tasks throughout your routines throughout the day so that you have a moment where some kid's not getting through all the tasks way ahead of your slowest guy who isn't ready.
Done anything yet. So you want some more open-ended tasks.
But the trick is, don't saddle yourself with tasks the kids can do. So look for anything that you can outsource for them to do themselves. You're helping them and you're helping yourself by doing this.
And kids love to do
these
sorts of jobs.
So, I mean, really anything that you can make a classroom job that you can assign that way, or that you can just train each of them to do when they arrive. I mean, I take this myself with my daughter at home. I mean, she knows as soon as she gets home from school that she empties out her lunchbox and that she pre-fills it with certain things for the next day that can be put in early, and just things like that. It absolutely applies in the classroom too. Of anything that you can train them to do for themselves, will help you in the long run.
You got enough to do.
Right. And then next we've got students are engaged in meaningful instructional activities.
So the most important part of the school day is obviously the learning. That's what they're there to do for. So that's what they're there to do for. Apparently I need to go back just for some learning. That's what they're at school for. So we want to make sure that we're addressing that even in these busy morning times, that there's some meaningful learning going on.
Right, and we want students to come into class knowing how to prepare for the day, that there's a learning experience waiting for them when they arrive, where to find the details of that experience, and how to complete the experience. We want them knowing that every day when they arrive.
So for us, we found that the most effective way to incorporate all of those ideas was to use a spiral review. So a spiral review means that you're hitting the same topics over and over throughout the year so that it's getting lodged
right.
into that
The research shows that spiral review helps students move their learning from short-term memory to long-term memory. And that's why we feel like spiral review is so important.
It's vital.
And you don't have to do spiral review in your morning. You could do that at some other point in your day. We just found that since we wanted a meaningful activity to start the day, that was the perfect place in our day to put spiral review. So that's why we call it morning work, our spiral review. But it doesn't have to be morning work. It is the most important thing is that you do a spiral review. But this is why we do it in the morning. Is just because it was the perfect way to start the day.
Because we've already taught this material, they can work on it independently.
And on the rare occasion there's something in there that we haven't quite hit yet, it's a really good quick introduction and assessment to see what they already know about that.
Yeah, it can be completed independently because we've already talked about it.
That's the goal. And it helps students remember what they learn. And it shows us where students are struggling. So those are the three main reasons why we chose to have spiral review be the method of our morning work. And this is a picture of, on the left is first grade morning work, the middle is second grade morning work, and the right is third grade morning work. All these are due for a visual refresh, but the content's good. The content's still really good. But I mean, this was really born out of complete necessity for Heidi she was teaching for 5 or 6 years before I started teaching at least. Yeah. And she had already started to create a version of this second grade morning work just for herself, because she saw what she wanted her kids to have practice in, and she wanted them to have something meaningful to do when they arrive, and she couldn't find anything that met all of these goals. Because you can find worksheets. You can find
and that's what I used for
work.
A lot of years with just a random worksheet.
Right.
I had worksheet books. I just copy a page out of that.
Right. But she wanted it to be intentionally planned and so that the difficulty increases and it continuously reviews the entire scope and sequence of skills that you're going to be learning in second grade. And so when she couldn't find that, she made it herself. And that's sort of what we've applied to these we actually have a kindergarten one too that's not in this picture. So you'd be surprised if you don't do a lot of worksheets in the day, which neither one of us did. They actually really enjoy this. In fact, my daughter does this at home and she really enjoys it because she doesn't normally do a lot of worksheets. So, I mean, worksheets get a bad rap. But I think the problem is that so many worksheets are busy work. And this is not busy work just because it's
on a paper.
Yeah, just because it's on a paper doesn't mean it's not meaningful. So we really take it very seriously that every activity they do in their morning work is meaningful and purposeful and not just fluff.
Yeah. So we're going to make not busy time, not wasted time.
Right.
So, but you don't have to start your day with morning work.
You don't have to. Yes. We do think you should get a spiral review in your day. That is
absolutely vital.
We really feel really strongly about this.
Comprehension.
This is literally the one thing I would never ever teach a day of school without is spiral review. But that doesn't have to be your morning task. So just purposely select an activity that aligns with your goals for the morning.
And that purposefully is the key right there. Be intentional with whatever is going to meet the best needs of your students.
Right. And I mean, don't just jump on whatever everybody on the internet is doing. If you're in these awesome second grade Facebook groups and everybody's doing something in the morning and you think, well, I should do that because they're all doing it, just stop and think about if that meets your goals for the morning. And if it does, then that's a good activity for you. But don't jump on the bandwagon just because everybody's doing it. Because I think that's a problem we have in primary education with all these cute blogs and Instagram and social media of this idea sounds so cute and fun, and it's actually going to be a ton of work for me, but I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, just really think through your choices. Preserve your own sanity, first and foremost, and then make the most purposeful decision you can for your students.
And then classroom climate was very important to me from the beginning. And so I try to greet my students by the door. I will admit that at the first of the year, I'm very good at this. And by October, it starts to trickle off. And by May, it's, probably not happening. But I tried. I tried to incorporate things like music and just want to have a really warm tone in my classroom.
Right.
Even though, if you've followed us along on this video journey, you know that I have pretty high expectations of how things are done and when they're done.
Right.
But I still want that warm feeling tone in my classroom.
Right. And Roxanne Crete, is that how you say your name?
I'm guessing
Crete, who wrote the morning meeting book, which, by the way, if you comment on this video, we are giving away 3 copies of this book, thanks to the Responsive Classroom for giving us these copies to give away. So leave a comment if you want to win one of those. And she says, the way we begin each day in our classroom sets the tone for learning and speaks volumes about what and whom we value, about our expectations for the way we will treat each other, and about the way we believe learning occurs. So that's a really important thought to keep with you when you're thinking about how you want your day to be.
And so that's exactly why I always did a morning meeting, and I think you did.
I did too,
well.
yep.
Yeah, so as outlined in the book, the morning meeting has 4 components: greeting, sharing, a group activity, you usually played a game or a silly action song. And then
I have to just say, anytime you're ready to kill your students because they are just like so crazy and you're frustrated with them, sing that Tootie Ta song, because it's impossible to be mad at a group of second graders like with their eyes closed and their tongue out and their legs crossed, like just being the most ridiculous ever. I fall in love with them every time. When I'm frustrated, I always put that in for our group activity. Just a little teacher tip there.
Win-win there.
And then news and announcements. Those are the 4 in the morning meeting book. But as always,
we had to
make
tweak
adjustments
to fit our own.
But the idea of the components is that it creates a climate where the students feel respected and they feel safe trying and learning new things. And that is absolutely our goal with our morning meeting. So these are what our 4 components look like.
So, sharing.
Wait, did we skip green? I know we didn't skip it. It's just in a different order. Sorry. I don't know why.
How funny. So we would so I'd always start with the greeting. The beginning of the year.
Here, look, I'll just go to that one and go back.
That's not greeting.
No, well then, there's no slide for that. Sorry, I don't know.
So we'd always do greeting. Then
yes, which you can do. There's a lot of ideas in the book, but there's tons of ideas on Pinterest.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of other ones that the one that we use every day in preschool is one that I learned in college, and we don't do the clapping and snapping with preschoolers because that's just too intense. But with second grade, I did this one frequently where they just go like this on their lap, and then we go through the whole class. Like, Adelaide came to school today. Adelaide came to school. Yay, Adelaide! And they just go through the class, and I do it much faster than that so we can get through it faster, and the kids love it. And it's just an easy way for everyone to have a moment where we're saying, hey, we're glad that you're here today.
You're here and we noticed it.
And
that's important to us.
Because it's scary to think of a kid who's at school all day and isn't ever sure that anybody noticed they were there, So that's the important part of greeting.
And then sharing comes next. The book has some outlines for 6 weeks of school. If you have that book, it also talks about some things. But I found that I was getting the same kids signing up to share every day because they were the kids that would arrive first.
Right.
So I set it up so that each table had an assigned day. They could choose to share or not. It's up to them.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times I would have a day where nobody wanted to share on that table. We just moved on. Yep. And because they knew they were always going to have an option, it wasn't stressful of, I want to get there in time to sign up. And they knew if they missed it this week, they'd get another chance next week. And it just became less of a thing then. Like, if somebody really needed to share, there was a time scheduled for that. But otherwise, it didn't need to be a big show and tell sort of thing. And we did have rules on what they could share. They can't, no animals. Things like that,
Then we would do a game or an activity.
And again, I don't have slides for these things. I don't know what happened.
Again, there's lots online you can find, or in the morning meeting book has some good ideas. I actually have I want to say I have a book from.
I think I only have
Big
slides for the things you tweaked.
Oh,
That's why.
how funny!
That's why,
and then so we just do a game or activity, and then instead of having like a full written out morning message, and I taught with some ladies that did wonderful.
I've seen darling ones,
but I just couldn't manage that.
No, first of all, I have the hardest time like writing big. Like my handwriting is terrible, and it's just frustrating. I didn't want to have to write a fresh message every day.
And okay, full disclosure, it took a lot of time to get through the morning message, and I didn't feel like having a whole letter to the class every day was maybe the best use of time.
Right. But if that works for you, then more power to you. We're just saying how we adapted this to work better for us. And the thing that we learned in teaching is that if it's not done for the whole year before the first day of school, it's probably not happening. So that's sort of how the morning messages were born, because we knew if we had to think every day of what the morning message was going to be, it was going to crumble apart. So we kind of did something like this where it was a question of the day sort of thing. And for us, we made it so that each day of the week had a different type of question. One day is a math question, one day is language arts. There's a funny joke on Friday that they answer. Trying to think what else. There's often like a vocabulary. Yeah. This is an example actually of one that would be in the vocabulary. And then there's also ones like general ones that you can insert as necessary for social classroom topics if there's like things you want to talk about.
How can you clean up your mess better in the lunchroom?
Right.
We're going on a field trip today. What do we need to remember?
What can you do if you see someone on the playground that doesn't have anyone to play with? Things like that are, and also ones for special occasions. So for holidays, or today we have an assembly. How can you show, be respectful in the assembly today? Things like that. And then we would talk about these answers during the morning meeting. So, but they answer them earlier. So
yeah, I would post it on the easel back by where we met for morning meeting.
Right.
And just stick it up on the little clip, and they
would just write their answer right on there with their whiteboard and with their whiteboard marker, and then write their initials next to it. But we also, I never had a smart board, but we have these in PowerPoint so that you can project it on the smart board and have it do it on there. I've seen people have them write their answers on sticky notes and stick them up. You could really have them write it on their own whiteboard at their desk. There's tons of ways you could do this. We just wanted low prep as possible. One of my tasks every day at the end of the day, as I was getting ready for the next day, was pulling out the morning meeting for tomorrow, or the morning message for tomorrow, so it was ready to go. So that's sort of how we did the morning message, right?
And then my last few years in second grade, I started incorporating mindfulness exercises in the morning, and it made such a difference. So we'd either do some kind of stretches or yoga or a guided meditation. They love those. I bought some books on Amazon.
Yeah.
And then we'd always end with some deep breathing where they cross their legs, and like I had the whole little thing and walk through straighten your back, hands on your lap, close your eyes, in and out, and then I time them for 15 to 30 seconds, sometimes maybe a little longer if I needed a little more of a break, and they would just breathe, and it's beautiful and peaceful, and then we're just all ready to start the day.
Yeah. So just wrapping that up, I think, hold on. I can't remember if this... We're on to this. Wait, you went too far. No, go. Yes, we're up to this is the quote. Uh-huh. Okay, so your time is valuable. Your energy is precious. That is the reason why it's so important to make your morning routines clear so that you can save that valuable time and energy for the day.
For the things that really matter in your day.
But let's be honest. Some days are not going to go like this. A lot of days are not going to go like this ideal situation. But hopefully if you've got your routine very well planned out, you can get back on course at any moment. Because what you may have happen is
you have an IEP scheduled at 4, but that parent has shown up at 8:45. And so when you're supposed to be starting your day, you're pulled out to go to this meeting. And it made all the difference when, this office secretary, I could be like, the kids know exactly what to do. You just make sure they do it. And it was fine. I came back into just a peaceful, busy little class who barely even noticed I was gone. Mm-hmm. Or, a kid gets sick and throws up across 5 desks. And
true story.
Oh, yeah. Or a kid... This also happened. A kid rescued a bird from his dog, put it in his backpack, and brought it to school. And then the bird got out and flew around the classroom. And so it's like moments like that where you need your routines, because that's how you get back on track.
Right.
You can't recover the day from a bird without a routine.
A morning like that could derail your whole day, and it might anyway. But if you have a really solid routine to fall back on, you have some hope of gathering back together and still having a purposeful, meaningful day. So let's switch back over here. Oh, wait.
Hey, you did that in 35 minutes. Impressive,
considering it's like the longest post of all time. Like Heidi already made a long one, and then I went in and I was like, oh, but what about this and this? And then she added, I think, like twice as much as what was already on there. So it just
the morning is important. There's a lot to say.
There is a lot to say, and we feel really strongly about it. But so go to our blog post, secondstorywindow.net, and look for the morning routines post, and you can download that free download to help you look through your own routines and decide what you need to change and what you want to do. Sorry, like halfway out of the thing. I understand how this works clearly. And it also comes with like
teacher guide.
Yes, a teacher guide that walks you through everything we just said in this video. So if you want to go do it without watching us talk the whole time, and I wouldn't blame you, or you want to reference some of the things, the blog post goes through all of them.
You through it too.
Yes, you can go and get the download of all of these other pages to help you get started on the day.
And if you want the morning meeting book,
yes, we're giving away 3 copies of the morning meeting book thanks to Responsive Classroom. So if you'd like to win a copy of this, leave a comment and we'll choose, like, maybe on Sunday, we'll choose a winner. 3 winners, actually. We get to send 3 of these out. So this is, as Heidi says in the post, this was her very first teacher book. And I had this one, referenced it too, because they have so many great ideas for you for that morning meeting. So this is a must-have.
Absolutely. For every teacher.
I know. And I think that's it. So if you have any questions about morning routines, leave a comment and we'll come back and answer them later. And then also leave a comment if you want to win that book.
Yeah, great.
So that's it. Have a great night.
Thanks for joining us.
Let us know how your morning routine goes. Yes. If you have good ideas for ways that you've applied these ideas differently in your classroom, we'd love to hear them. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.